Ollie Moritzen, that great Danish gastrophysicist, expert on all things to do with umami, deliciousness, texture, sushi, and the master of culinary science, has just produced a new book, and we're celebrating that in this week's blog, as well as harking back to our reminders that you need to save and not scoff, and also a little bit about how you should read a label. So food labelling's been around since 1266 in the UK, arguably even further with the Bible, and it's incredibly important. It's something which we don't pay enough attention to. There are really three things I think you need to think about on a label: the ingredients, the country of origin, and the way it's been crafted. But what you've got to realise is that all of those have been deliberately challenged, obfuscated, and obscured by big food over the last 100 years. So let's use chocolate just as an example of it. Let's start with a great ingredients list. So this is a great bar from Chocolada, and it tells you very simply what the ingredients are: cocoa beans, unrefined sugar, cocoa butter, pine needle. Stuff your grandmother recognises, stuff you recognise, you've probably seen all those at home. Now let's have a look at Bourneville here. Let's have a look at the ingredients. It starts with sugar, then cocoa butter, then cocoa mass, then palm oil, then emulsifiers, soy lecithin, E476, then skim milk powder for a dark chocolate, and it tells you that it contains at least 35% cocoa and vegetable fats. Okay, that's the first thing. So since 2014, in theory, all products sold in the EU and UK should have a country of origin. But Big Chocolate, under the European Chocolate Association, managed to get an exemption for this on 3 grounds. So if you look at this, it won't tell you where the chocolate beans or mass or whatever you want to call it comes from. Craft Chocolate prides itself on transparency of always knowing where the beans come from, in this case, Seram Island, Indonesia. But Big Chocolate argued for 3 reasons you don't need to know this. The first one is it might mislead you, you poor consumers, because we all know that chocolate doesn't grow in Europe, it grows in the tropics, so it'll mislead you to tell you where it grows. The next thing is they said, well look, under this EU regulation, you only need to tell people about ingredients when they're more than 50% of the product. And in this case, for chocolate, this is only 35% cocoa, so we don't need to tell you. And the third reason, they argued that it basically will lead to increased costs. That costs will go up by at least 30% if we're not allowed to blend from the cheapest different origins we've got. So when you're thinking about food, be very, very careful what's in there, because there's one more trick. There's a lot of stuff which is not mentioned in the ingredients. So if you come to a tasting here, we'll explain to you why this bean, which we think comes from the Côte d'Ivoire, has a slightly unique aroma and flavour to it. And we'll explain to you how you can use your sense of flavour to identify that. Another issue, which is that processing agents are now exempt from the ingredients list. So for example, when you buy some cheese, processed cheese, are you aware of the fact that you may well have some aluminium in that cheese? No, because it's a processing agent, they don't have to list it there. So be really careful with not just the small print, but what isn't written. Again, look at the blog for a little bit more on this. Thanks.